Hi everyone, I'm Gary Smith. This is the recording of a webinar we ran that shows just how easy it is to schedule revenue overtime in Salesforce using our app. There's a link just below the recording to the AppExchange where you'll also find other videos and lots of screenshots, and of course from there you can take the app for a test drive yourself. Enjoy the webinar, good luck, speak soon. Hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar on scheduling revenue over time in Salesforce. You know, many companies need to schedule revenue over time, but many people have told me just how difficult that is to do in Salesforce. And it's for that reason that some time ago now, we built an app. We built a revenue scheduling app, and that's installed and working very successfully in many of our customers' organizations to help them schedule revenue. But I'm delighted to say that earlier this week, we launched that app on the AppExchange to make it much more widely available. And I'll be using it today to demonstrate just how easy it can be to schedule revenue over time in Salesforce and to create revenue schedules, and also to maintain and achieve accuracy and visibility of scheduled revenue. So welcome to the webinar. I'm your host, Gary Smith, and I'm very pleased to say I'm joined by my colleague, Ben Affleck-Curry. Are you there, Ben?
I am here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
So Ben's going to manage the logistics of the webinar and keep us apprised of any questions, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. By all means, if you've got any questions or you just want to get in touch, you can use the question panel or the chat panel in your GoToWebinar program. So definitely ask the questions while you're here.
Okay, great. Right. Well, let's get started. You know, what type of businesses, I mean, who is it that actually needs to do this revenue scheduling? Well, SaaS businesses are one obvious example where they're scheduling revenue on fixed term contracts, and anybody that sells service contracts or maintenance contracts would be another obvious example. But we also have a number of manufacturers that need to schedule revenue, people who make capital equipment and goods. And for example, if you buy 100 petrol pumps, you don't necessarily want to take delivery of all of those petrol pumps at one go. You want to take delivery over a period of time, which means that the manufacturer needs to schedule that revenue and recognize that revenue over time. We also have a number of companies that make consumables or high volume goods or transactional items. I can think of one company that makes consumables for dentists, for dental practitioners. And every couple of weeks or so, the dentist orders a new set of products to update their stock. And that company doesn't want to create a new opportunity every time there's a new order. Rather, they create one opportunity at the beginning of the year, and they schedule the revenue how they believe it will pan out over the course of the year. So they schedule that revenue initially, and then they maintain an up-to-date forecast based on how things are actually happening and how they anticipate the revenue will fluctuate from month to month. A lot of professional services providers, of course. We have some companies that do projects over 2 or 3 months. We have one client that typically runs a project for 2, 3, 4 years. And again, they need to schedule that revenue out over time. So lots of people need to schedule revenue. What's the problem? Well, the problem is, and I kind of implied this earlier on, there might be a number of people on the call who've attempted to use the standard functionality for scheduling revenue. It's challenging to use. There's a lot of clicking. Most salespeople, I had a salesperson describe me as a right pain in the tail quite recently to use the standard functionality. And things like for example, the schedules don't update and don't move when the close date changes. So you very quickly come into a position where the schedules are out of kilter with the opportunities. And there's a lot of clicking, the reporting is not that strong, and so on. And the result of that really is that, well, several things really. One is that a lot of companies that do have Salesforce, they do the revenue scheduling outside of Salesforce in spreadsheets. And that's typically a lot of work. It's a lot of admin to create and maintain those revenue forecasts. It means that the spreadsheet is not synced up with any changes to opportunities as pipeline opportunities are created, or as pipeline becomes closed one, the revenue schedule doesn't automatically update. It also means that you can't link it to targets, for example, and somewhat frustratingly, the only people that can see the revenue schedule forecast are people that have got access to the spreadsheet as well. So that's not ideal. I've also seen a lot of people create rather than ad hoc Salesforce, hack around with Salesforce customization might be another way to describe it. So, for example, I've seen people create lots of fields on an opportunity, and they use those fields for gathering the monthly or quarterly scheduled revenue, and they create more fields year on year. The professional services company I referred to a second ago, where they have a 3-year deal. It's one deal. The customer has signed. It's a 3-year deal. But what they were doing is they create an opportunity for year 1, an opportunity for year 2, and another opportunity for year 3 to reflect the different revenue. Well, partly that doesn't give them a very lumpy revenue profile, but also, of course, plays havoc with reporting, because to use a very English phrase, the reports and the dashboards were something of a dog's breakfast, because what's the pipeline? You've got to include and exclude certain dashboards. It plays havoc with conversion rates and everything else. So it's a well-known issue, and as I say, we built an app. And I'm going to demo that app to you now. It's an app that's from this week, is available on the AppExchange. And I'll also mention that I'll come to this after we've done the demo, but we have a special offer as well for people that are on this webinar, and exclusively for companies that are on the webinar now. We have a special introductory offer for you as well. So what I will do is, let's cut over to Salesforce, and we'll start with an opportunity. I'm going to do this. I'll do most of the demo in Lightning. The app does work equally as well in Classic. So maybe when we get to the dashboards, I'll cut over to Classic as well and just show you what the Classic dashboards. But if you are using Classic, and I know everybody is not using Lightning at the moment, but if you are using Classic, then if you can just picture the same functionality in the Classic version as well, then you'll be good. It works exactly the same way. So let's start by adding a product to an opportunity in the normal way. And so let's take a couple of products. Let's have this one, and let's have one of these as well. So I'll add these 2 products to the opportunity. I'll select them to be added to the opportunity. And we've got our usual standard fields. So we have a quantity and we have our sales price. I may want to change those. But we have these 2 new fields as well. So the revenue start date, let's say the schedule of revenue. So irrespective of the close date of the opportunity, the schedule revenue, let's say, I don't know, let's say 1st of May. And let's just assume that that schedule is going to run for 6 months. And for the other product, we might want the schedule to begin in July, for example, and run for 12 months. So when I hit save, so you see me just refresh the page there. That's actually because I've just refreshed the page a couple of times just before I joined started the webinar. And normally what would happen is the revenue schedules would appear immediately, because my laptop has just cached previously. So what's happened here is that the 2 products have been added to the opportunity as we'd expect in 100% of the normal way. But we also have the revenue schedules here as well. So these revenue schedules have been generated in the background. And if I click on View All, you can see all of the revenue schedules that have been generated for the 2 different products, for the 6 revenue schedules here and for the 12 here on a monthly basis. So let's go back to the opportunity. And of course, a couple of things might happen. as we go through the life cycle of the opportunity, one of the things that might happen is that we might want to change those parameters about the schedule. Well, that's easy to do. So if I click on this button here, then I see all of the products associated with the opportunity. I might want to make a couple of changes. So we'll just adjust the start date of that one. We'll change it from 6 months to 15 months, and let's adjust the start date. Let's adjust the start date of that one as well. So I click save, and the schedules automatically recalibrate, and we've got a new set of schedules that reflect those changes that I've just made to the parameters there. The other thing that might happen, of course, and it's very common for the close date to change on an opportunity. So let's go and change the close date. As I mentioned earlier, one of the frustrations of the standard functionality is that when the close date changes, and obviously close dates do change quite often, when the close date changes, the revenue schedules don't adjust. Well, here they do adjust. So the schedules will move by the same number of days as the change in the close date. So that we might want to change that gap. We can do that using this button. But if we simply change the close date, then the revenue schedules will shift backwards or forwards by the same number of days as the close date. What might also happen is let's have a look at this page. And you can see here is a page with all of the revenue schedules on it. And it may be that in some businesses, particularly, for example, professional services or other similar sort of businesses, we actually might want to make a change to some of these numbers. These are the numbers that have been automatically calculated for us by the system. But let's just say we know that the first month is going to be a bit bigger, and maybe the second month is going to be a bit bigger, and so on. So we can make a manual change to the revenue schedule if we want to. We can make it for each of the products as we see fit. If I click save there, then several things have happened, and one is that the sales price of the product has updated, but also the opportunity amount has updated as well. And incidentally, this section down here will always keep a tally of the number of schedules and the latest revenue schedule amount and so on. And this figure here, I'll come to this amount in just 1 second. So let's move this sales cycle on a little bit, and in fact, let's set the stage to 1. So let's just go back and have a look at the schedules now. And you can see something interesting, which is that this column, the one that we modified on this other product a second ago, this column is now locked. I can't edit this column anymore. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is that this column, the revenue amount, the scheduled revenue amount, that represents the schedule month by month schedule value that we anticipated when the deal was won. So that's what we thought was going to happen. The time that the deal was won, that's what we thought was going to happen. And that figure is now locked. However, this column has been populated, so we've copied all of these numbers over, including the manual adjustment that we made. So these numbers have been copied over into the forecast column. And as time goes by, we might want to update that forecast with the latest picture. So we can go there and make some changes as we see fit. As we see the opportunity actually panning out based on what's actually happening, then we can modify the forecast column as well. We've also incidentally automatically changed the status of those schedules. So we track the state of the schedules, whether a pipeline and so on. And through a little setting, you can modify these status values. So we automatically set them to be booked at this point once the opportunity has been set to closed one. So I click save there. And Again, our schedule amount has been updated. In fact, you can see that our latest forecast amount is nearly $25,000, compared with the 21,500 that we started with. That was the amount that we anticipated when the opportunity was closed won. Now, couple of other things. Let's have a look at the target functionality. So the app allows us to create a target, and the target is for each salesperson. So in the case of this target record, it's for Jim for the month of April. And you can see that Jim has a scheduled revenue target of $15,000 for this month. Now, what's automatically happened is that the revenue schedules that are due to land in April, because this is April's target, the revenue schedules that are due to land in April have been automatically linked to this particular target. They're linked to this target because these opportunities are owned by Jim, and this is Jim's target. So we can see that his target is $15,000. He's got scheduled revenue due to land in April of just over $8,000. He's got pipeline scheduled revenue of $1,600, and we can see the weighted value of that as well, $800. So we can sum up his expected revenue. So it actually looks like Jim's got a bit of a problem because he's got a target of 15,000. We expect him, based on what he's already pulling in from won opportunities and the probability of existing opportunities and the scheduled, the weighted value of those schedules, we can see those figures here, and we can see those figures represented on the right hand side and Jim's performance here. Look, we can create different targets for different salespeople over time.
Gary, would now be a good time to jump in and answer a few questions? We've had a few come in.
For sure.
Yeah, okay. The first question we have got, does the app also consider quantity scheduling?
You can pull in the quantities as well. You can pull that in through a field on the you can pull in the quantity field. We have a number of customers that also actually drive the scheduling through quantity as well. And what we've done for those customers is we've created a modification of the app. So most of the customers that we already have using the app are using this kind of out of the box version. But we have quite a few customers using variants of this as well. So we have a customer in the telecoms industry where they are scheduling on quantity. It's the number of text messages actually. They're scheduling on quantity. The unit price stays the same, but it's the quantity that actually drives the revenue amount. So if I just go back to, let me just reset this opportunity to an open stage, and I'll show you exactly what I mean, because I don't want that figure to be locked. I want to be able to modify it. So, excuse me. What they're doing at the outset is, instead of the revenue amount, they're scheduling the quantity down here, and the same thing when the deal is done, they're adjusting the quantity forecast here, and that times the unit price is generating the revenue amount. So they're adjusting quantity rather than revenue. Yes, you can't do that on the out of the box version, but we do have a number of customers doing exactly that sort of thing. So I'm not sure who answered the question, but just get in touch with us after, and we can talk about that.
Great, okay. Another question, does this scheduler connect to custom objects, or does it only connect to the opportunity object?
Again, our out-of-the-box version relates to opportunities and opportunity products. We have one customer that I can think of where we've done exactly the same sort of thing. Two customers actually, where they are scheduling future order value, and they're using orders they're not using the standard order object, they're using the custom order object. And yes, you can, but again, we would need to make a variant for you. The standard version works on opportunities and opportunity products. So get in touch with us.
Yeah, definitely. Another question, you mentioned services businesses. We don't have a catalog of products per se. We who want to schedule based on the amount across a timeline of a year or more.
Mhm.
That's where the question ends. I'm not particularly sure what the question is actually asking, but
I think I can probably anticipate the question, which is not every company uses products. And that's quite common in professional services companies that they're not using products. In actual fact, I would you can we can create again another variant where you simply take in the total opportunity amount and you're simply scheduling it out over a period of time. We have one customer doing that, but um, even if you're not using products and you don't think you should be using products, then you might want to just consider that, because in our own business, for example, we don't really, well, we have a few products, we have these apps, but most of our work is professional services work. So in our organization, the products are consultant, developer, data migration specialist, project manager, etc. So when we have an opportunity, we add some products. We add a consultant, so we have a quantity, a number of days. We have a price per day, and one times the other makes the line item price. And we don't, but we could charge a different price for different resources and so on. So even if you're not using products at the moment, you might want to consider. It's relatively easy to set up. Whoever asked that question, if you, we can just go through that on a separate web meeting if you like, and I'll show you how we do it. And so yeah, the answer is yes, you can schedule the amount. Again, we need to make a variant for you, or you could use products, and you might be able to use the out of the box version.
yeah, they just followed up with a following kind of comment saying, how would you recommend using services instead of products?
I think in some ways it's the word products which is a bit misleading. A number of years ago, we changed the word products in our own Salesforce environment. We changed it to resources. It's 100% standard products that we use. So it's easy enough to change the word product to be any word that you want. You could change it to be services or professional services or resources, whatever you want to change it to. But that, and the way that I described there, what we do is we have an opportunity, we would add a consultant, or we'd add a developer. They are our products, and simply the number of days times the unit price times the sales price makes the line item price, and then that rolls up to the total opportunity amount. It does bring some benefits because, first of all, when you look at an opportunity, if you look at an opportunity for, I don't know what the size of the work is, the person who asked it, but let's say you look at an opportunity for $10,000. Let's just say, I can say, that's X days of consultant and Y days of developer, or whatever your kind of services might be. So your other services might be, for example, we have a customer who in the UK, if you do R&D work, you're entitled to a tax break, but you've got to apply to do the you've got to apply to the government tax people to actually get that tax break. And there are companies that help formulate the report and the submission. It's quite a complicated thing you have to do. And there are companies that provide that service. Now, are they providing a product? Are they providing a service? Are they providing people? But I know that in their app they have R&D submission is a product, even though actually they're delivering a service to those customers. So using products has a number of benefits. And if your services are people, then it starts to give you some insight as to, what's the makeup of our opportunities? What might our future resourcing requirements be? If we're looking at pipeline opportunities 3 or 4 months from now, if we're looking at pipeline opportunities, what products are associated? What type of people are associated with those products? Maybe the person who asked the question could just type in and just let Ben know whether we're on the right lines in terms of answering that question.
Yeah, no, they did follow up with a comment saying the answer was perfect, so that's
Oh,
great. I think we helped them out. There's just a couple more questions before we
sure.
move on. Can we include margin in the schedule amounts?
Yes, you can. There are quite a few people who calculate margin on opportunity products. There's several ways to do it, but the simple way to do it is you have on each of your products, you have a cost figure. So let's say that you sell the product for $100, the cost might be $50. So you can put a formula field onto the opportunity product that calculates the total margin. And then, even though this is a package. The AppExchange app is a package. You can still put custom fields onto the revenue schedules, for example. So your margin, your scheduled margin, you wouldn't really be scheduling by margin. You'd be scheduling by revenue. So then the margin is the margin. It's you take that total margin through a formula field. You could then divide it by the number of schedules and put that figure onto the revenue schedules.
Great. And the final question for now is, can we schedule revenue quarterly?
Yes. You within our app, you schedule revenue monthly. But I'll hop over to the dashboard in a second. So the way I would do that is you still schedule the revenue monthly, but you'd roll it up on dashboards where you're grouping the dates in a quarterly way on the dashboard, or a half-yearly way, or annual, or kind of whatever time period you want to do. So I'd schedule the revenue monthly and then roll it up on the dashboards. I can't remember if I was about to go to the dashboards now. Ben, but we talked about targets, didn't we? So yeah, you can create salesperson targets. Let's just have a very quick look for people that are using Classic. Let's just hop over to Classic. So there's my opportunity. So that's the same opportunity. And where you'd expect them, there's my products, there's my revenue schedules that have been created a few minutes ago. There's my button for adjusting the parameters of the revenue schedule. I think we changed some of the numbers and so on there, didn't we? This is my button for that viewing all of the schedules, so almost an identical page to that. So that all works in exactly the same way. And as I'm in the Classic, let's just have a quick look at the Classic dashboard first. So this is the dashboard that comes with the app for the Classic version anyway. So really what we're doing is we're summing up for this financial year, for next financial year, the scheduled revenue from won opportunities, from pipeline opportunities, and I know that not everybody uses weighted value, but if you have a lot of opportunities, then weighted value can be a statistically sound way to forecast your revenue. So we're saying if you take the one scheduled revenue from one opportunities and the weighted value from pipeline opportunities, then you can project that forward. We looked at the different ways to update the forecast and so on. Scheduled revenue one for this year, next year, you might want to see it by pipeline, by stage, and so on. You might want to look at it by product. So you can do all of that. We also, incidentally, this earned versus unearned, we have a function on the revenue schedule. So where the schedule is generated over time, then if the scheduled date is in the past, so if it's in an earlier day in February, for example, when we're doing this webinar, if it's in an earlier month, then we have a field on there and it automatically updates that status to earned. Anything with a scheduled date of today or in the future, then that classifies as unearned. So that might be a way you also want to report on the numbers. Let's go back over to Lightning. Excuse me. So let's have a look at the Lightning dashboard. A bit more flexibility in terms of what the Lightning dashboard looks like. So we're not restricted to 3 fixed columns in Lightning. So here's the Lightning dashboard that comes with the app. So again, we're summing those important numbers. We're looking at the one scheduled revenue over time, the one plus weighted, similar sort of things. How the scheduled revenue is panning out by product family, for example, and the performance against target, where we're rolling up all of the salesperson's targets. I'm saying, well, actually, do we have enough scheduled revenue to meet our month-on-month target for the remainder of the year? And of course, like any like any report or any dashboard, we can drill down to the underlying report. And if you were scheduling by, not so much scheduling, but if you want to track the margin as well, this is the sort of place you would put it. So we might want to add a field called margin and bring it in here. You can, incidentally, you can clone and adapt any of these reports and create your own dashboard variants for any other specific reporting requirements that you might have. If you wanted to roll those numbers up quarterly rather than monthly, for example, then you just do that through the report. So let's just go back over to our slides. So that's the demo.
Just before we leave the dashboard, Gary, there's a couple of questions on the reports. I think now would
Okay.
be a good time to
Sure.
answer those.
Yeah.
Can the reports be modified and adapted?
Yes. Yes, you can. The way to do that is, so this is an example of the report that comes with the app, and you would go to save as, create a new version of the report. So just create your own copy of the report, and you'd modify it in the normal way. You might go and modify the filters or in whatever way you see fit. But yes, you could then adapt that report as you see fit.
Yep, that's great. And the final question regarding the reports, can we report the revenue schedules by product or product family?
Yes,
In
absolutely.
fact, there is another question as well before you move on. So answer that one and then we'll come to this one.
Yes, and it's that one. So it's this chart here. So you may or may not want it delivered as a donut chart, but yeah, that's exactly what that's doing. So remember that the revenue schedules are opportunity product specific. So we're scheduling opportunity products. Therefore, we know what the product is. Therefore, we know what the product family is. And if you've got other custom fields on the product, different ways of categorizing your products, then you might want to create a variant of this report. Not so much on product family. You might want to you might have product category or however you classify the products in your system. So yes, you go to that report, click Save As, and put in whatever fields were appropriate to you.
That's great. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, there was one more. Can we grab data from 3 different objects to build the report?
It would depend
They
on what
said,
the.
yeah, sorry, they've just added another comment. My objects are opportunity, sales order, and invoice. The schedule can be different when the transaction is at the opportunity stage versus the sales order stage.
I'm assuming perhaps this. So I'm assuming based on the question that sales order is not a stage on the opportunity; it's a separate object. The answer is and the schedules are linked to the opportunity products. If you wanted to schedule revenue on that, it's a bit like that earlier question. If you wanted to schedule revenue on the custom objects as well, yes, we could create a variant of that. Um, it, 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 the answer to the question is yes. I'd probably need to look at it to actually understand exactly what the requirement was. But you have, if you're reporting on, if you've already got a standard report of opportunities and sales orders, we would probably need to find a way to modify the. It might be a custom report the person is using. I'm not entirely sure. I'd probably need to look at it, and we might. I'm absolutely thinking aloud, but it might be a case of when the opportunities. I'm guessing here, but if the sales order is created when the opportunity is set to 1, then we might want to, at that point, shift the schedules from being linked to the opportunity to link them also with the sales order as well, in which case definitely you could report on it. So it was a bit of a mouthful. I had to think about that. But yeah, if the person wants to get in touch with us, we could have a quick web meeting and show us what you mean, and we'll have a look at it.
Yeah, definitely. To the person who asked that question, I will reply with our contact us page. So do feel free to get in touch if you have any further questions around that topic. I think that's it
Okay,
for questions for the
great,
time being.
great. In that case, I mentioned about the AppExchange listing just earlier. Okay, so we've launched it on the AppExchange this week. The price of the app, the list price of the app, is $250 per month per organization. So we're not doing it on a what I think can be a bit of a confusing sort of per user fee. It's a single monthly subscription fee for the out of the box version of the app. You absolutely can, of course, take a free trial, a 14-day free trial, and I would absolutely encourage you to do that and just see how it works for you. I mentioned also that we have an introductory offer for any of the companies, only for people that are on the webinar today. And that's a reduction, a 10% reduction in the subscription fee for that first 12-month period. So if you're on the call today and your company's on the call today, then we would be delighted for you to take a test drive and avail of that fee. Just one other thing, just before we finish. If you wonder why I'm clicking, it's because I'm moving all of the GoToWebinar panels out of the way. That's better. So this is the AppExchange listing. If you search for revenue schedules in the AppExchange listing, you'll find us. Our app logo is that slightly out of screenshot there, but is that little pink logo with a curl on it. By all means, take it for a test drive today. When you do so, if I just scroll down, there is some adjustments, some very simple adjustments you need to make to the page layouts and opportunities and opportunity products. We've written this guide to help you do that. It's a very simple process, and the guide really gives you step-by-step instructions about how to make those changes. If you're a little bit wary of doing that, or you're not quite sure how to, do not hesitate. If you take a free trial, then just get in touch with us, and I or one of my team will just have a couple of minutes on a webinar with you, on a web call with you, and we'll just talk you through that process. It's a simple process to do. You're just going to make the buttons available, make the revenue schedules available on the fields, and so on. So, Ben, thank you for facilitating the webinar. Everybody else on the call, thank you very much indeed for attending the call. Thank you very much. Don't hesitate to go and have a look at the AppExchange listing, and we hope to see you again in the future. Good luck. Thank you.